Hello and welcome to my knitting channel. This is part 3 of the zipper sweater by PetiteKnit. We will be working on the body, so we will be casting on the underarms and we will be knitting it around for the body, and then we will do twisted rib stitches, some double knitting and Italian bind off. So before we begin, grab your yarn, your needles, your drink, and let's go. So this is a good point in which to check that you've got the right amount of stitches. You're going to want the same amount of stitches at the front as you do on the back, and then the same on the two shoulders. Let's cast on the 2 raglan stitches before you start casting on the underarm. For the underarm, you're going to use the backward loop method, and you just fold it over like that with the tail end on top. Now you're going to place the shoulder on a stitch holder. For me, I use these cables from Knit Pro, and they're really useful because they have these stoppers on the side, but you can also put on a needle on one side. You're just going to place them on, so you're not knitting anything, you're just slipping the stitches over to that new cable. Now that you've done that, you can remove the needle and put a stopper on instead. Now you can start joining the underarm in the round. Make sure you leave that shoulder off the resting stitches, leave them away from everyone else. And now you're going to knit as normal, but you've got to do it quite tight because otherwise you get that long kind of gap in the round. So this bit you do have to make sure you tighten it properly. Knit all the way around until you reach the other shoulder, where we will do the same thing as earlier. Once you have knit those 2 raglan stitches, it is time to cast on the underarm again. So we're repeating step 2. Same as before, tail end on top. Make a loop, put the needle through it, cast on the amount of stitches that you are being asked to do. And step 3, we repeat again. Place the shoulder on the stitch holder. And remember, you are not knitting this, just slipping the stitches over. Then make sure that you put the stopper on the end if you are using cables. Some people use just scrap yarn and then tie a knot. And now we repeat step 4, which is joining the underarm in a round. And I'm just going to remind you, you really need to make sure that you've knitted it tight enough. It will leave a gap if you don't do it at this moment in time. Now that you've knitted the whole of the front, this will be a good time to count the amount of stitches you have and make sure it's the right number. So now you're going to knit in around until you reach the desired length, and I'll see you back in a bit. So now we can move on a little bit and we can start our half twisted rib just like we did on the collar. But the good thing about this is that we are working in a round, so you don't have to do it differently on the second round because we're not working back and forth. So knit through the back loop and purl normal. Knit through the back loop and purl as normal. You're going to do this for quite a while until you've reached your desired length of ribbing. Now you are ready for step 6, which is the double knitting, and basically what it does is it separates the knitting into two parts, kind of like the front piece and the back piece. You split that into two. In round 1 you need to knit 1 through the back loop and slip 1 with the yarn in front. Knit 1 through the back loop, slip 1 with yarn in front. You have to remember to move the yarn around between the back and the front. Don't forget you are knitting through the back loop, not a regular knit. You want to keep it twisted. And when you reach round 2, you're doing basically the opposite. You're knitting the other side. So you are slipping 1 with yarn in the back and purling 1. If you're doing the Norwegian purl, you're not going to have to do any back and forth stuff. So I would recommend that. And once you've done round 2, you're going to repeat round 1 and 2 again before we start the Italian bind off. And now that you've done that, you're not really going to need your marker anymore. You are going to measure 3 times the length of your piece of work. That's 1, and then I double it, and then I triple it, and I like to do just a bit extra just in case. I'd rather have too much than too little. Place it on the needle and thread through, because otherwise you'll be all day threading it through each stitch. This technique can be quite confusing, so I recommend practicing on something else before you do it on the jumper. You're going to put your needle through right to left on that first stitch on the needle, and then the stitch can come off the needle. Then left to right on the first stitch of the needle. Keep it on, and this is where you can start your steps. So step 1, pick up the knit stitch and go through the other knit stitch that's on the needle. Right to left on the first stitch of the needle, slip 2 stitches off. Then left to right, but keep the stitch on. And now you start it all again. Pick up the knit stitch, go through the other knit stitch that's on the needle, through the first one, right to left, and slip them off. Then through the first stitch, left to right. Now you can shorten the steps a little bit and join step 2 and 3 into one. So let's see how that works. Through the knit stitch and through the other knit stitch. Through right to left, slip 2 off, and then put the needle through left to right, and now you can thread through all the way, and that kind of combines step 2 and 3. Here you can see what it looks like, and it should be quite stretchy as long as you didn't knit too tight or sew it too tight. And that's it. Thank you for knitting with me. If you found this helpful, please consider liking and subscribing, unless of course you hate cozy jumpers like this one. It's really soft. You'll be missing out. See you next time.